What are the stories that you are telling yourself? What are the stories that you're telling yourself that are preventing you, that are limiting you in your relationships, in your quest, in welcoming the love of your life if you're single, or in creating a thriving relationship in the relationship you're currently in? What are the stories that you're telling yourself? This is such a great question to ask ourselves, because most of us people that like to be studying personal development and seeking the truth or answers, we gather a lot of information, which information brings a lot of clarity, brings a lot of power. And then we start forming stories around our stories about why is it that we haven't found the love of our life? Why is it that we're not thriving in our relationship, in our current relationship, or in other relationships? And then we start forming these stories. And sometimes those stories comes from the mind trying to understand itself. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong. I am inviting you today to question it, to question the stories that you're telling yourself. Before I continue, my name is Paola Castro, and today I am substituting my friend Parashakti as she's traveling. And I am so excited to talk to you about this. Just before this call, I was just going within and asking myself, what is the one thing that I want to offer to these beautiful beings that tune in on these Facebook Lives? And this question has saved my life, has saved, let me reset. This question has helped me in my journey. The journey in manifesting the love of my life, and in the journey that right after I met the love of my life, how to maintain a thriving relationship, how to keep it healthy. And this question is also very important because sometimes we might get stuck in a story. We repeat it, we tell our friends about it, and then we feel stuck in it. And what stories are you talking about? You're probably asking yourself. Well, I'm talking about the stories of, well, my dad wasn't available for me when I was growing up, therefore I have issues with men. That's a valid story. I'm not saying that might not be true for you, but that's a story. Um, when I was little, I didn't feel seen by my mom and dad, and so now I don't feel worthy of being seen by my partner, or by manifesting the love of my life, the partner that I so much want. That's a story. Another story is, I am not enough. I am not pretty enough. I am not smart enough. I am not young enough, or I'm not old enough, whatever enough. That's a story. And again, I'm not saying those stories might not be true. They might be an aspect of your journey. There might be something that you discover along the way, and it was interesting to look at. And when you're in therapy, you're talking to your therapist, you're like, oh, this is why I keep attracting the wrong person in my life. Oh, this is why my husband and I, we have all these arguments and it makes no sense. It's beautiful to have that awareness. Did you hear that? Beautiful, powerful, empowering, amazing. And there is a moment where we need to learn how to let that go. Did you hear that? There is a moment when it's important to let go of the stories. Because your consciousness, and this comes from my beautiful teacher, Michael Bernard Beckwith, he says, consciousness triumphs over your circumstances. Consciousness will always triumph over your circumstances. And sometimes our minds, the ego mind, loves to have a story to repeat, to keep repeating itself. And I believe we do this because it gives us certainty. It gives us a reason. I know who to blame, who to shame. I know why this is happening to me. and it gives us the sense of certainty. The thing is that there is a moment, there is a point where we have to be discerning. Is this story serving me? Is this story making my vibration congruent to that thing that I really want to manifest in my life? And again, I'm talking to single people and I'm talking to people in relationship. What is the story that you're telling yourself that is now limiting you? There's anecdote or a story that I heard once of a man. His name was Michael, and Michael was in a seminar, and the presenter of the seminar told the group, I would love for you to walk around, introduce yourself to at least one person and tell that person the story of your life. And so Michael pairs up with this guy, and he goes, well, okay, hello, my name is Michael, and well, the story of my life, what brought me all the way here to this personal development seminar is that 20 years ago, I had an accident, and this accident changed the course of my life. This accident made me so ill. I almost died. I was in a coma. When I woke up, my bones were broken, and then I had to have lots of surgeries, and then I got into painkillers, and then I was so depressed, and then the people that I thought in my life that they were going to be for me, they weren't for me. And then this other person who's listening to Michael's story said, oh, Michael, let me stop you there. I'm so sorry. I don't think that's true. And Michael looks at him a little like confused, and he says, what do you mean this is not true? Like, I'm telling you the story of my life. And he goes, just give it another try. Just go one more time. And then Michael says, okay, well, sure. So I was telling you that the reason why I'm such a seeker now and I love these kinds of gatherings is because I was in a really dark place one time. I had an accident, and then I went into this horrible place, and I thought I wasn't going to make it, and I got addicted, and it was terrible. And then he kept telling stories, and the guy's like, I'm going to have to stop you again. I don't think that's true, Michael. And Michael goes, what do you mean? Like, I'm so confused. I'm starting to get angry because you're telling me that what I'm telling you about my life is not true. And he says, let me help you. Your name is Michael. 20 years ago, you were in an accident. Period. The end. Now, this story might resonate or may confuse you. I remember when I listened to it, I had to pause and I think, what does it mean? He was telling the truth. He was telling his truth. And what the other person was trying to convey to Michael is like, yes, all of that happened, but what really, really happened is that you had an accident, and that was it, 20 years ago. What happened after that is all of those events, if you keep regurgitating on them and keep repeating and repeating and repeating, it's almost like you're just grabbing the past and just bringing it with you. The first thing we have to ask ourselves, what's the story that I'm telling myself that is no longer serving me? I know that for me, there was a story that I was not worthy of good love. I didn't even know I had that story replaying in my subconscious mind. And one time I did an exercise and I was declaring that I am worthy of good love. And then I got in relationship with the love of my life, was now my husband. And I would see the glimpses of that old story sometimes like creeping in. And I would have to look at the story and tell the story, thank you, but no thank you. I am worthy of good love. I am worthy of a healthy relationship. But I had to catch myself, because here's the thing, those of you that are single, I remember investing all this time in the law of manifestation and, drinking medicine and all of this. I was so excited because I said, if I get to do this work perfectly, he will show up. And he did. He did in the divine right timing. And I remember as I was walking into the relationship, as I was experiencing this beautiful new relationship, there were stories of the single me that they wanted to be alive. They wanted to be kept alive. And I remember there were moments where I had to like really sit with myself and ask myself, what's the story that I'm telling myself right now? I just met a wonderful man. This feels really good. But I'm playing in my mind a story that is no longer relevant. So I had to see the story in the eye and I had to say, I love you. Thank you, but no thank you. I know you're trying to protect me. I know you're very, very familiar to me. But not anymore. I'm not going to bring my past into my present moment. I don't want to project my past into the future. I hope you are with me, still resonating with this. So today's question is, what is the story that you're telling yourself? I'm going to look at the chat and see who is here. Hola, Paola. Hi, Pablo. It's been a while, so great to see you. Hi, Autumn. Hi, Debbie. Your worthiness itself. Thank you. Thank you. When they tell you a joke the first time, you laugh. By the third time, you stop laughing. With trauma, you should do the same. Except for the lesson it was, take with you the experience. Take the experience with you. Okay. Hi, Erin. Fantastic messages for what's going on in my life. Oh, I'm so glad. So glad. Yes, I agree with Pablo. Exactly. There is a moment where we have to discern, when am I starting to get addicted to my story? Now, again, I'm not saying knowing, having, going to therapy and talking, and even, when we drink medicine, when we do ceremonies, the insights are so sacred and so amazing, and we get this like, oh, thank God, now I get it. And in the healing process, there's going to be a moment too where it says, okay, you got it. Now are you ready to let it go? Are you ready to tell yourself a different story? Because let me tell you something, your circumstances have been there. My circumstances have been there to help me evolve and expand and transcend them. It's interesting how sometimes, and people tell me sometimes, Paola, but I think this comes from a different lifetime. And I think, my past life and my karma and all of that. And I believe in that too. I believe that there's things that we're not even aware of why they're in our lives. And karma, or a past life, might set a beginning point of what you came here to transcend in this life. But it doesn't determine your fate. So our souls have decided to incarnate, to evolve and transcend those patterns that are a big fat lie. This is not true that you're not worthy. It's not true that you're not enough. It's not true that because of what your dad did, then that's going to determine how you're going to deal with men, or what your mom did, that's going to determine how you deal with women. It gives you an idea of what it is to be healed, what needs to be released. But I refuse, I remember saying, I refuse to take this into my life and make it the story of my life. And I'm so glad I did that. Because I've seen how the patterns have changed in my life, and how everything has unfolded in such a different way than it used to, when I was telling myself the same story over and over again. All right, so thank you, Danny. Thank you, Erin. Only when we can sever ties to a past that try to kill us can we move into a future there's only being written by ourselves. Yes. Hi, Angel. Yeah, take what you learn. Thank you. Oh, hi, Parashakti. So good. I'm so glad you're here for a moment. So today, I also wanted to share with you this question because it has helped me in my relationship. And I learned this question through an incredible Netflix special with Brene Brown. Highly recommend it if you haven't watched it. And she says, those couples that have made it through many, many years, through all the ups and downs of a relationship, in her research, she would see that there were people that lived wholeheartedly, that they were vulnerable, that they were, that they went through the limitation of shame and they really opened their hearts to be seen. Like that word intimacy. So those people that had great capacity for intimacy, and she said that in her research, she saw that over and over again, those people that were in thriving relationships will ask a very important question to each other when they were in an argument or something was going on for one of them. And guess what the question was? The question was, it wasn't a question, it was a statement. The statement was, the story that I'm telling myself is this correct? So let me re-explain it, because I started saying this was a question, but it's not, it's a statement. And she said that, I'm not going to spoil the Netflix show, but one of the things she says, and one day she was struggling, and she was telling herself all of these stories, again, that comes from the limiting beliefs. He doesn't love me. I'm not good enough. I'm so old. All these stories. And she remembered her research, and she turns into her husband and says, hey, I'm just feeling really yucky right now because the story that I'm telling myself is this and this and that. And her husband looked at her and says, like, oh my God, I can't believe you're telling yourself this story. The reason that I'm being the way I'm being is because right now I was scared of doing an activity that they were doing together. Again, you watch the show. It's a great show. But the point here is that she was vulnerable enough to say, hey, this is how I'm feeling because I'm telling myself this story. Can you help me out here? So I remember watching this show and telling my husband, like, wouldn't this be great to use with each other? Like, what's the story that you're telling yourself? And, he said, yeah, that sounds pretty good. And ever since then, every once in a while, we would turn to each other and say, well, right now I'm feeling upset because the story that I'm telling myself is that it happened the other day. And I was just going to tell you very quickly because it's hilarious. Here in Latin America, or in my family, but I know it's Latin America mostly. If you are in one room and you need to talk to a person in another room, instead of you walking to that room, it's a very Latin American thing to shout at each other like, hey, what are you doing there? Food is ready or whatever. I think it's hilarious. And, because I've lived in other countries, I know that that's not typical of other countries, but in Latin America, that's what we do. And so my beautiful husband, he's from Australia, and they don't do this in Australia. So I remember food was ready, and I was shouting at him saying, hey, like, food is ready. And he's busy. So he comes to me, he's like, I just feel upset right now. I feel like you're disrespecting me. No, he said, the story that I'm telling myself, he used it so cleverly. He said, the story that I'm telling myself is that I'm being disrespected. And I looked at him and I'm like, oh my God, what I'm feeling right now, the story that I'm telling myself is like, what a good wife I am that I just made beautiful lunch. And I'm so excited to present him the lunch that I just made for both of us. So this is a small example of how beautiful this statement and question works, whether you're in relationship or not. What is the story that you're telling yourself? Tell people. You don't have to be in romantic relationship. You just say to yourself, what's the story that I'm telling myself? Or tell it to your friend. Look, right now, I sent you a text. You didn't get back to me right away. The story that I'm telling myself is that you don't love me anymore as a friend, or you're too busy for me. And the other friend might return your message saying, I'm so sorry. I was in the middle of this crisis, or I was in the middle of work and I couldn't get back to you. Imagine how many arguments we can avoid by just being vulnerable enough to say, hey, this is the story that I'm telling myself. And it's a sign of spiritual maturity, of being a person that has done the work. Why? Because you're willing to take responsibility of your part. You're willing to say, hey, I don't know if this is what's going on, but this is the movie that I'm playing here. Let me tell you about it. The other person doesn't feel judged, doesn't feel attacked, and it opens the room for them to tell you what's going on. So today, I kind of went into two directions with this question/statement. What is the story that you're telling yourself? And Would you be willing, next time you're in an argument, you have a little ouchie, you have a little resentment with someone, and say, hey, I've been telling myself this story. This is a story I've been telling myself. I don't know if it's true or not, but this is what's going on for me. What do you say? And I guarantee you, the other person will be like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, that's not at all what's going on over here. In the 4 agreements, Don Miguel Ruiz talks about this too. Make no assumptions. 0 assumptions is one of the agreements. Don't assume for other people. And don't take it personally, because all of us were telling ourselves our own little stories in our head. So I am so grateful that I was able to share these beautiful statements last question with you. I hope you take it in your heart. If you're single, ask yourself that question. What's the story that I'm telling myself that I'm ready to let go? That is not serving me in this process of manifesting the love of my life. Your past doesn't determine who you are today and who you're going to be. It gives you great information, but that there is a moment where we need to let it go. And maybe today is your moment. Because guess what? When that person comes into your life, it's going to be beautiful to have a blank slate, to start fresh, no baggage. If you're in a relationship and you're arguing and you're in disagreement constantly, I invite you to use this. This is a story that I'm telling myself right now with what's happening. No blaming. There's no one to blame. You're just sharing how you're viewing things. All right? Let me see your questions and your comments. May, hi. Oh, May, yeah. I'm glad you came here. Hope you had a beautiful week. Yeah, I'm not there teaching anymore. But sometimes I jump into Facebook. Hi, Melissa. Hi, Solimar. You're welcome, Erin. Says Pablo, good. Communication is very important for every good and true relationship to last. My good friend once told me it is important to hear and then say. Yeah, we got two of this, one of this. So let's use that math. Listen more, and yeah, it's all beautiful. Communication, it's a beautiful quality to cultivate. So I feel complete. I don't see any more comments. I love you. Have a great day, and it's been a pleasure to be with you today. Goodbye.